So Croydon Hills Baptist Church is about 28 and a half years old, and like a lot of church plants, it grew out of another church plant in the local area when this area was starting to develop as a community in its build and structure of families moving out here. And it moved into the current facility here in Croydon Hills in about 1996. About 9 years ago, a small number of Karen people were approached to approach the BUV to come and participate in one of the local Baptist churches. And that was kind of the beginning of the birth of the Karen and non-Karen part of Croydon Hills joining together as one community. The church at the moment, there's about 600 people, I suppose, adults and children in the non-Karen, the English part of the church, and just over 400 in the Karen part with their families and children who are part of the church. At the moment we have 3 main services on a Sunday. So we have a 9 o'clock service, an 11 o'clock service and a Karen speaking service at 1:30.
Hi, my name is Muhe. I'm a Karen pastor. We have Karen congregation here. I think more than 400 plus, and then we have more than 80 families, and we belong to Croydon Baptist Church here. Yeah. And then we have a church service 1:30. We have our own service, Karen speaking service. Especially 11 service, we mix people together with the English congregation. We come to learn from each other. Some will listen to pastor preaching or something like that.
In the initial stages of the Karen people joining people here at Croydon Hills, there was a Karen support group set up, and that had a number of different ministries which were kind of grew out of that. So there were early parts which were involved in settlement, and so they might have been involved in the provision of things like food and clothing and housing and infrastructure and things like that, which you can imagine would be very important to people settling in a new country. There were other things that grew out of that which were appropriate at the time, and so many people who are involved in Croydon Hills Baptist Church were involved with things like helping Karen people to drive in an Australian context. There were numbers of people who did like forklift driver training along the way. Now some of those areas have continued to develop in different ways, and so we have a number of English speaking classes which have been part of the journey over the last 8 or 9 years. We have, for example, at the moment we have a Karen Women's Bible Study, but that's done in English with a number of English people, and so it involves both English and skills languages in those sorts of areas, but it also involves spiritual development as well as relational building. So that's been a fantastic part in the life of the church. Also, we have a number of different sort of more practical ways of Karen people. So through our men's shed opportunities, there have been people engaged in automotive training. There's a number who are involved in sort of handicraft, sewing and other things like that together, which have been a part of those particular aspects. So there's been a wide variety of areas within, I suppose, Croydon Hills and its wider community within the Karen speaking part of the church.
So we have a course 2 or 3 weeks in men's shed. We learn how to buy a car or how to fix the car or something like that. Yeah. Yes, I mean in the Karen, we are doing the ministry together in our Karen pastor and Aussie pastor here, not speaking English. Yeah.
The Hope Project grew out of a desire from people within Croydon Hills not only to welcome the Karen community to Australia and the local Maroondah area here, but also to understand the relationship and their background and heritage of what it was to come out of the Thai-Burma border. And so I think it's off the top of my head, it's 4 to 5 years ago now, a number of people were engaged with some of the Karen leaders and asked them this question: not only could we welcome you to Australia, but could also we see some of your heritage and understand where you've come from in the border area and some of the refugee camps which had been part of their life experience. And so in the first, I suppose what became the Hope Project trips, a number of people went over to the border region, visited some of the local schools and also some of the villages, and were able to get access into a couple of the refugee camps and to get some understanding of what it was for a Karen person to move from that border region to Australia. And out of that project, out of that trip, birthed the idea of not only have we seen and started to understand some of your life experience, but also there was a sense of we cannot just sit back and just sort of welcome you to Australia, but actually not do something which treats you as a brother and sister in Christ with your family and your people back in your homeland. So annually there's a trip or two which goes to the border region to help people to understand what goes on. The church contributes, there's a number of other people in our community contribute financially to help with aspects like education or health. We've also been able to build a local church to help in a number of the village areas which are a part of the displaced people in that sort of border region. The Hope Project has also been able to advocate for a number of different aspects with local government here in Australia and also in that border region for particular cases where we've wanted to see, I suppose, some compassion and justice be borne out on a small level. So it's been a wonderful expression about what it is to belong to the wider church beyond just this local area, but also to the global church. So from my perspective, I think that the things that are fantastic is that right from the beginning, when Croydon Hills Baptist Church and the Corinne became a part of Croydon Hills Baptist Church, was the fact that it was laid down on a foundation of prayer. And I think that was a wonderful provision, both from the people, but also from God as He's led the people. Right at that beginning point in time has always been the mindset of that we would work together as one church. And so it wasn't a case that we are the host and we have a guest in our house and then we say goodbye to the guest at some point in time, but rather that we are family and we see our future united together, working together as one. And so that is the fundamental aspect that drives the way in which we do ministry and life together.
Yeah, I think when we live in the refugee camp before we came here, some family, we are very worried about the church or something like that. But when we arrive here, we have a friend here or church also. Yeah, we're very happy.